On the next Empire Report, are your data transfers safe? Your information may not be as secure as you think it is. We have 5 steps you can take to protect yourself. And
blading. Dangerous teen trend or a one-way ticket to war? Find out what you can do to keep your children away from the Van Duel threat. Plus,
noted chef and restaurateur Jade Wilson takes us on a taste journey to explore She Knew, the hottest new culinary fusion trend and the topic of their new recipe collection, Sizzle and Spice.
all that and more on the latest Empire Report at 2200 SET.
Welcome to episode 35 of Around the Verse. I'm Sandy Gardner.
And I'm Ben Lesnick.
Our PAX event on Saturday seemed like a success.
Yes, I'm hearing a lot of great things about the FPS. I haven't gotten a chance to play the zero-G stuff yet, but apparently it's pretty cool. But yeah, check out a highlight reel of what happened at PAX.
And did you check out the interior of your Retaliator?
I did. It's the ship I've been waiting most for, and I was not disappointed. Guys in the UK did an incredible job on this one. Check out a bit of Retaliator footage.
And the monthly report for February is now available.
Yeah, I think that may have slipped by a lot of folks. On Friday, in the middle of all these other updates, we had the monthly report with all the details from everywhere around the company. Be sure to check that out.
And now it's time for news from around the verse.
Let's go to the Spectrum.
Hi everybody and welcome back to sunny Santa Monica, California. I'm Travis Day.
I'm Darian Warlick.
We are two of the producers here in the Santa Monica office. We're here to do a little bit of news from around the verse. So to kick us off today, I think we're going to talk about the Drake Herald.
So the Herald is our Inforunner ship, and it's currently being modeled by one of our artists, Paul Forgy. And for those who may not be familiar with it, it's I guess kind of a chunky, blocky ship. It's been redesigned to be a little bit more symmetrical. But looking at the early prototypes, it's actually looking up to be a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah, it should be cool. And then the other thing that we're here to talk about is the Retaliator. So the Retaliator has gotten an update. It's kind of our, yes, you see it in the hangar in 1.1.0, but it's also going to serve as our test bed, our platform for testing multi-crew ship functionality. So all the things like passing different HUD displays and different power options to different seats is all being tested in the Retaliator, as well as the new Ghost system, the game object state machine, and we're going to be using some of the cool optimization techniques for these larger ships that should be hopefully netting us benefit on, well, CPU cycles, render time, the whole bit. So anyway, next thing we have to talk about is the push for 1.1.0 and getting that out to the backers.
Yeah, we're pretty much tidying up the last bits of 1.1.0. It's been a pretty intense patch thus far, so I think you guys will be pretty impressed with what we've got coming for you. As Travis said, we got the Retaliator that's hangar ready, and if you haven't seen the video yet, definitely go to YouTube and check out the Retaliator video that we posted on there. It gives a little kind of a pre-flight walkthrough around the ship through the hangar, and it is beautiful.
Yeah, it also shows off some of the technology that we're building for the multi-crew, which is things like, there's one shot, and I forget how long into the video it is, but it shows the hit impact, and then the red emergency lights come on.
Yeah.
And it's, all that kind of stuff. These are the things I was talking about earlier with the setup of the Retaliator that is a test bed for all these different kind of conditional lighting, reactive lighting, as well as a bunch of other optimizations.
What else we got? We got some balancing going in. What else we got?
Definitely some balance changes. There's going to be the Gladius is flight ready. If you haven't seen the damage state video, that looks awesome.
That's the procedural generated damage.
Yep. And so it's a great triple win. It's very rare that you get to do this in software development, where it is not only more performant, but it is also cuts down on our load times with that ship in the scene. It looks better, and it's actually easier for the artist to make. So it's like a real triple threat.
Yeah, I definitely recommend watching Chris's presentation at PAX East, where he kind of talks about how even just, I think you mentioned the Hornet was including with all the damage states was like 100 megabytes per ship or something like that. And by adding this new procedural damage system, it reduced it by what, like almost 2/3 or something like that?
Yeah, basically like the Gladius right now is sitting at around 14 megs in VRAM memory. So yeah, the difference between caching 100 megs versus caching 14 is pretty significant. And that's where, when we convert all the ships over, that's going to cut down on our load times.
Yes.
Because we pre-cache all the ships to make sure that we don't get massive hitching when they load into the game. So that would be a huge win for us. So that's something we're going to be investigating in the near future, is how long it's going to take to convert all the old ships to the new system. And I think what we'll end up seeing is it's going to be a lot easier than we think. It should be pretty quick.
That'll help out with the multiplayer ships as well, or just multiplayer in general.
Totally. And yeah, it's all these kinds of things that will lead to us getting more ships on screen, larger maps filled with people. So it's all very important, not only to Arena Commander, but also to the larger persistent universe. Also, there were some cool interviews coming out of PAX, if you guys are interested. Sorry, this is one more piece of news. Where Chris talks about, I think it was Gamers Nexus, he talks about the new zone system. And, basically, for anybody interested in instancing local physics grid and how we're kind of changing the way that that's done, it's a very interesting, I could go on and on about it, but it's if you're interested, watch an interview with Chris. He does a really good job of summarizing the changes we're doing.
This is the interview or presentation you did on PAX East, or was it a different interview?
It's just an interview with the press at PAX East, yeah. Anyways, thanks for tuning in for a rather extended news segment, and we'll see you next week.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Kendra Gonzalez, the creative director at Ilphonic.
I'm Chuck Burgard, president of Ilphonic. I also help with programming stuff on Star Citizen.
Yeah, we just got back from PAX East. It was amazing. The event went really well. We're really happy to show off some of the first preview of what's coming down the road. The Astro Arena was really cool to watch people get their hands on it and play and hear some feedback. And the people there that saw it, it's definitely it was our first kind of reveal. So there's definitely some issues and some things we want to clean up and iron out. But it was definitely really awesome to actually see that kind of just revealed out into the open finally, and so everyone can see what we've been doing.
Yeah, and kind of what we're working on next, we're taking a look at a lot of the stuff with the Astro Arena. There's a few things we had to dial back last minute that we've been working hard on. So, the people that got to play didn't really get to see a lot of the movement we want to do. We kind of figured there's a few things with just zero-G movement that we want to really detail and fine-tune. So one thing we're doing is kind of working with Steve Bender, the animation director on CIG side, to kind of tighten that stuff up. We're going to be pre-visiting a little more, trying to see like exactly how it feels when you react to kind of grabbing on and hitting a piece. So it kind of gives our programmers and animators here more of a target to go towards. So that's a lot of the big focus for the next push, that and just kind of getting everything for the module ready. There's a lot of little bugs we have to clean up, but for the most part, it's there. There's some new animations that we're kind of still bringing online from the last mocap shoot. I think there's going to be another shoot here soon with some of the mocap kind of filling in some of the details that we really need. So it's actually going to be really awesome. It's looking great. It's fun already now that we kind of have a game coming together. We're just going to get more hands-on and get more kind of internal company-wide play tests and stuff like that, and really start dialing it in. And then, yeah, hopefully it'll be, sometime shortly available, probably out to kind of, early testing. And then, after that, going out to the backers kind of thing. So.
Yep. Cool. And I guess that's it for now. But next week, we're happy to show what we've been doing. It's going to be a crazy week for us after all this feedback and stuff. So.
Yeah, we'll get it dialed. So we were really excited, and it was awesome to see a bunch of people out there really loving it, enjoying it, and kind of giving us the first round of feedback. So.
Yep. All right. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, Jake Ross, Associate Producer of the Persistent Universe, and here with me this week I have
Patrick Thomas.
What is your title here, Patrick Thomas?
Lead artist.
Lead artist here at CIG Austin. I got a little update for you. So we are working hard on the demo you guys are about to see here coming to South by Southwest. Hope to see you guys there. We've got some VFX work being done by Lee Americoon in-house, setting up steam, coming out of grates, playing some screens, some exciting things going on in the TV screens and the bar. So look for that, and then just bits and bobs here and there just to help bring the level of ArtCorp to life. We've also got the R&D being done on the mining gameplay, actually starting the implementation of that design this week. We got Andrew Wynn, in-house gameplay programmer, helping to set that up. So here, in the too distant future, you guys will be able to start actually mining stuff. So that'll be really, really fun to see. So I've got Patrick here with me to talk a little bit about what he's working on. Patrick, why don't you?
We got this incredible Moga glass concept. The model is just beautiful. It is amazing and has so much detail. You guys are going to love it. We're just going through it bit by bit. Now, once we get the model, we have to take the model and dissect it, pull it apart, pull pieces apart, and some parts need to be kind of rebuilt or add a little bit more detail. And then once we do that, we divide it into its materials, its surfaces. So if like something's silver or plastic, then we assign colors. And then once we do that, we optimize the high poly mesh. And then we start building the low poly mesh that we project the textures onto that you see in the game. Put it all back together with animations. It's very complicated. And then we also get the added effects that'll be a part of it too. It's very exciting. It's a very important part of the game. We want to make sure it is perfect.
That's the update. Thanks, guys. See you around.
Hello everyone, greetings to our backers. This is the UK QA team. I'm Andrew.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Matthew.
We just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the new features that we've been testing in the upcoming 1.10 release of Arena Commander. The biggest thing is probably the multiplayer free flight, which has been a lot of fun to test. We've had quite a lot of time we spent just messing around because the new landing features in there, so we've been testing that to make sure it works. But also once you land, getting other players to land, board the ship, sit in different seats, and take off again. So, lots of stealing, lots of killing each other.
Also crashing into each other.
But the general thing they said when they said to test it was kind of try and play it like the public would, steal each other, kill each other, see each other's ships, kill each other. Just be a nuisance, really.
We have a wonderful view with you guys.
Yeah, we hope we're doing you proud with our testing anyway. I'm sure you'll do a lot of it too.
Yeah. Make sure you put those bugs on the forums so we can keep an eye on them.
So yeah, keep doing our job for us. It makes it a hell of a lot easier for us.
Just don't do it too well. Yeah.
We've also got the rec credits coming in this build as well, this patch, sorry. Chris, please talk about that.
Yeah. As you all know, and you might have heard a lot about it, there's lots of posts about it, the REC is coming into 1.10, and you'll be earning credits as you play the game, doing certain stuff in certain game modes. You take these credits, go and rent some weapons, ships, kit them all out, go crazy, earn more, and the cycle of epic win.
Basically, it's a way to try it before you buy.
Yeah, give a bit more incentive to play and keep you guys interested.
Yeah, mix it up a little bit.
All the bookmates are naming everybody. That was bad last time.
Anyway, moving on. We've also got the Gladius flight ready in this patch. So we spent a lot of time looking at the new damage states, making sure they're good to go.
Making sure the squibbing, as it's technically known, is in.
Yes.
Where with the old ships, as you've probably seen, when you smash a wing off, generally you'll have a clean cut, or it'll always be the same damage state. Whereas with Gladius, we have this new these new damage states where like the shots reflect on the ship. And one thing we were told to keep an eye out for was when you damage your ship, make sure you're going to have like a clean cut, a straight line down your ship where the wing or cockpit or whatever fell off, and make sure it all looks fairly natural. Quite a lot of that to test, really. Different ways to damage your ship, ramming asteroids, each other, missiles, guns.
Also, it flies like a dream.
That was rehearsed.
That was
rehearsed.
Yeah, it wasn't the first time.
Yeah. So with all that in mind, eventually, hopefully, we'll get this 110 patch ready. We'll start running through all of our QA checks to make sure it's good enough to go out to you guys. And yeah, before too long, you should be able to play it. So enjoy.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. Impressive work all around. Let's kick it over to Mark for everyone's favorite Bugsmashers.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bugsmashers. Sorry I couldn't be here last week. I was binging on House of the Kardashians. Bugsmashers! Hey everyone, we are here in Vandal Swarm about to fight some wonderful AI. So let's kick their butts. I gotta wait for them to spawn. Wave incoming, and no AI. Where's the AI at? No! No. So the AI got busted. How did this happen? Well, pull up a chair, because I got a story to tell you. We had to pull in some features from main into 1.1 so we could have the Retaliator set up, and that uses a very complicated prefab system where essentially our designers and artists could design a ship just like a level, and then all of that stuff gets imported into the ship dynamically. And after that was ported over, we got a bug saying that specifically in this map, the AI were broken. Wonderful. So what was happening? Well, that is a complicated story. However, to shorten it all the way down, our swarm mode uses a series of flow graphs, which does a bunch of logic. And flow graphs is basically, you can think of it as a state machine that points to other states, or if you ever used Unreal or Unity, they have flow graphs as well, or graphs. And in these flow graphs, they have very specific entities where, based on those entities, it will do specific logic. For example, there's these spawn points all around the map, and there's flow graphs tied to those entities because those spawn points are entities, and it uses those to figure out distances and some other crazy logic that the level designers have to make sure that the AI spawns away from you or near you or however they want it to work. Either way, they all use the flow graph, they use entities, they tied to entities so that they could do their thing. For some reason, through debugging this deeply a while ago, the entity IDs are getting nulled out in the flow graph, which means that the flow graphs don't trigger. So what is happening? Well, when we ported over the prefab system, this is all when it broke. So let's take a look at what was happening. I have Kardashians stuck in my head. Here we are in this thing called the Entity Load Manager. Basically, anytime entities are created, it will go through this system to initiate flow graphs, attachments, and entity links. And when it goes through this, it will, I should say that the standard flow is the level comes in, the flow graphs are created, the entities are then created, and then the level will then see if any of those entities should go or get tied to the flow graph. And it all happens in this wonderful section of the code. However, the prefabs, they do that same thing. So the prefabs will get, so say we're in the level that's loading, our little ship comes in and it has a bunch of prefabs, and it starts loading these. Well, it will try to initiate the attachments, the flow graphs, the entity links, while we're currently in a spawn. That's fine and dandy, except the prefabs don't take into account the level loading and end up, as you can see here, clearing all the links, or clearing all the lists. And so what happens is this little ship that has spawned all the prefabs will spawn all the prefabs, do any of the links and creations, and then it clears everything. So by the time it gets to the flow graphs from the level, it has nothing left and it just goes ballistic. So what Jens in the UK did is, if I undo the brokenness, he basically created a little batch system so that if we're about to create new entities from like a prefab, we'll push everything on from the old system into a stack, do all the flow graphs, do all the attachments, and then pop back. So that way nothing gets broken. So I'm going to undo all of the changes I did to make it broken. And we can see here, when we're about to create a bunch of entities or prefabs, we will, this function gets called to prepare the batch, which will push all of these attachments, flow graphs, and any links onto a stack. And then it will set up its own attachments, flow graphs, and GUI IDs to get handled. And then once it's all done, it will clear it, and then we'll be back to the previous one. So the level loading will create one, so it can do its thing, and then when a ship decides it needs to spawn some prefabs, it will make its own thing and not touch the previous. And then when the prefabs are done, it will pop, and then the level loading will do its thing, and then that will pop. So nothing will write over each other. And as we can see here, it's just a lot of lookup code that Jens has added to check to see and get what current, he's calling it a batch, but it's our current flow graphs and our current attachments that we want to handle. And that all gets handled in here. The next thing that was busted is in our flow graphs, we have this section which handles, we call our GUI ID to entity map. And basically the GUI ID is something in the level that says, hey, this entity gets to tie to this flow graph. It's just how we know what gets connected to what. And this map is also in the prefabs, or I should say this map is specifically for the prefabs. And what was happening is, in this bit of code, I had to recreate it because we did actually a bunch of cleanup and it would require a lot of compiling to go back to and from. So I just replicated the broken state. Basically, the broken state was if it didn't find anything in this map, it would set this flow graph to basically use an invalid entity. So when the level has its flow graphs and then the prefab comes, since the levels and the prefab flow graphs were in the same list, it would null out all the entities. And then because we pushed them into call it a stack, so now the level ones will get handled by the dynamic, we still want to make sure that we have an actual GUI ID for that entity. So rather than saying, hey, if I don't have anything for this specific map in the prefab and abort, we're going to see if it's in the map, and if so, use that. Otherwise, try to see if there is a actual node in the XML. So that way, if this prefab map is like, hey, you're not there, but it's actually there in the XML, we're going to use the XML instead. So that will fix some other underlying issues. So now we will compile all the things, and we're back in the level. As you can see, my wingmen have decided to pop in, and now, ooh, the scythe have decided to join, so now we can go and kill them. So there you have it. Flow graphs are very, very delicate, especially when you have systems that touch them, such as the prefab system for the Retaliator. But that's all now handy dandy and fixed, so we are good to go, and on to the next 1-1 bugs. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm out. So this is one of the more complicated bugs to explain, but I will try to explain it in the quickest, easiest way possible. When the level loads, it has a bunch of flow graphs, and these flow graphs are tied to entities. Now, since the entities don't exist, when the flow graphs are created, we have to put these flow graphs in some kind of list so that we could handle them later when the entities decide to spawn. So the level loads, flow graphs get created, entities get spawned, then the flow graphs go, okay, this points to this entity, this points to that entity, this points to that entity. And what was happening with this bug is we ported some stuff from main over to 1.1 so that we could get this nice prefab system over and working for the Retaliator. However, these prefabs were overriding the flow graphs and setting their entities that they link to for the level to 0 or null. So the level loads, flow graphs get created, the entities get spawned, this entity creates prefabs, and it goes over to the flow graph list and it handles it itself, clears all the entities because it's wrong, and now the level comes in and there's no entities tied to it, so you break Vandal Swarm and everything else. The code was to basically fix that, and we just put it all on the stack and said, hey, let the levels do the levels, the props do the props, and problem solved. So now the Retaliator works, the level works, and we are good to go. Woo!
Kill 'em all, Mark.
Speaking of kill 'em all, let's head to William for this week's MVP.
Hey everybody, I'm Assistant Community Manager Will, here to bring you this week's MVP. This week's MVP goes to Nero and Mondicus for this thread and video in which Mondicus hijacks a glaive and flies it around. Check it out. Also, before you go, this week's organization is Black Star Initiative. Created to be the premier organization for security, Black Star Initiative focuses heavily on training to be on point. So if you're looking to protect some luxury ships, be sure to check them out. So thank you very much, guys. You're this week's MVP.
Thanks, Will.
I want to fly a glaive. Let's go over to CS, who I believe are finally caught up on their mountain of tickets.
Hi, and welcome to customer service. My name's Chelsea.
And I'm Alexis.
We'd like to update you that we're finally almost through the mountain of tickets and back to a normal number, so hopefully your response times will go a lot quicker. We've also hired 2 new customer service to work in the UK, and they should be starting in a few weeks.
And I have a merchandise update for everybody. We are currently looking into making some Star Citizen baseball caps, so you can look for those in the store very soon. We are also going to start shipping out the BDSSE shirts. If you pre-ordered one of those at the end of last year, you should see a shipping notification in the next few weeks.
We'd also like to thank some people who have sent in gifts this past week. Thank you, Taz and Taylor, for the Skittles and Warheads, and thank you to Razor for the framed posters.
And thank you to Reaps for the swear jar. It already has a couple dollars in it.
And Tommy B, thank you for the energy. So we'll see you next time, guys.
Chalexis out.
Nailed it.
Thanks, ladies. Chelsea will be in Denver for a little bit while Travis makes the final push to get the FPS out.
Oh, that's pretty cool. We're going to miss having both of them around here, but it's good news for Star Citizen in general.
She will still be answering all of your tickets like Speedy Gonzales.
I think that's all she does. She seems to go on the weekends and the evenings.
She is very speedy. Now let's go over to James, who interviewed the Director of Game Operations, Jeremy Masker.
Masker? I just met her. I don't know what that is.
What the?
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Jeremy Masker. Jeremy, how you doing?
Good.
Good to have you on board.
Thanks, man.
It's so you're out here visiting.
Yep.
So what are you doing out here? What are you doing in my office? That's how that came off. I'm sorry.
I'm out here to basically meet with Chris and Alex Mayberry to sort of talk to them about how things are going in Austin on the infrastructure side, and just sort of catching up and making sure that everyone's communicating.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad we could grab you and get some of your time while you're here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, you want to get some questions from the backers?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
First question comes from I Could Spaceman. What does a director of game operations do exactly?
That's a good question. Originally, I was in operations in a production role when I worked at Blizzard Entertainment, and my role here is like a gradient step of that. Instead of doing coordination, I'm helping our engineers do more of like investigative research, infrastructure design, and basically being an engineering manager for our operations team that's based in Austin.
So you took a more technical like slant than you maybe did at your previous employer?
Yeah, exactly. Before I was dealing a lot with communication, scheduling, tasking, the things that production usually deals with, a lot of coordination between multiple departments. Now I'm sort of currently focused more on just making sure that the engineering team that's reporting to me has everything that they need to accomplish the massive amount of server infrastructure build out that we have to do, and making sure that our server engineers coordinate with our DevOps engineers to build the best game that we possibly can.
Awesome. Next question comes from Nostromo 1977. As Director of Game Operations, can you please define and summarize the key performance indicators, or KPIs, and other metrics used for Star Citizen's development?
Well, there's a short answer to that, which is we don't have any KPIs.
Oh man, you just broke Nostromo's heart.
So, I'm sure that eventually we will get there, but the game that's live currently is a very immature form of what we're eventually going to have. So it doesn't require a huge amount of overhead and sort of service level tech that larger MMOs, FPSs have, where they have a large back-end team that is constantly looking at metrics to see how the game's health is, looking at health checks. While we have metrics that we can view in sort of an instantaneous overview, looking at graphs to see how logins are, or what are the memory allocations on the blades, or how much CPU is being used, or if blades are in a healthy or unhealthy state. Generally, we do all of that pretty manually, and we don't have any KPIs so much that we track and have any automation behind it. It's more of like, we take a look at Arena Commander and like make sure that all the services are up and make sure that none of them are crashing constantly, and that people are being able to get into the matchmaker and get into game. So really, with those only 3 metrics, there's not much reason to have KPIs, but as the game grows, that's going to be a very important part that we're going to have to define.
I'm sure Nostromo will be happy. Next question comes from Durden. Can you comment on how dynamic battle instances will work? If a battle instance becomes too full, will the instance be split into 2 adjacent instances in which players can traverse between invisibly?
How we are currently planning to build the infrastructure is, if you're flying around in space, you're on a server. And as that server fills up, the hope is that we will be able to basically subdivide the back-end load onto multiple servers, and have that be invisible to the player. So basically, servers would be doing network handoffs, so that if you have some geographical area that's being run by a server and it's starting to get overloaded, basically another server spins up to support it in the load, and possibly they subdivide it geographically, possibly they subdivide it by like load, let's say an asteroid field is a really high bandwidth to render to do the physics sim on. So maybe what you do is you keep the space station and most of the outlying space on one server, and then you just say, okay, all the asteroid fields in this solar system are going to be run by this other server. There are plenty of different ways you could do that subdivision. Geographically is an easy method to talk about conceptually, but may not be the most efficient when we talk about how our game is being built on cloud computing. That sort of leads right into the next part of that question, which is if I'm flying from one server to the next. Chris has talked a lot about this part, is that there is going to be sort of the invisible handoff as you cross the server boundary, and you will stream in all of your network, your server data, you'll stream in all of your network data, and the handoff between servers will be this invisible sort of flow from one server to the next server to the next server, so that it's transparent to the players.
Sounds like a future deep dive post.
Yes.
Next question comes from Starry Knight. What do you consider the biggest bottleneck to system performance for the PU?
My first very long-winded answer to the last question makes it sound like you can subdivide the work infinitely and we will be able to support these massive space battles. The actual bottleneck that we come down to is as much work as we subdivide, we still run into the bottleneck of the client. How many player entities can the client actually render on the screen? So that really is the bottleneck. So you could have a very widespread solar system run by one server, and if it's like 100 kilometers by 100 kilometers by 100 kilometers is this one server, if there are lots of people all throughout the system, their client isn't viewing those other client entities, right? They're too far away to see. So there's no bottleneck there. So, as long as we keep optimizing server performance and subdividing that work, you could get lots of people, a theoretical high number of people that we don't have an answer for yet. We're hoping, over 250, but, we still have to do all that optimization. But we're hoping a large number on this back-end infrastructure. But then when all of those players congregate into one area, that bottleneck becomes a client performance bottleneck of like how many entities can we render on a user's screen at the same time before you're watching a slideshow and you're not playing a game, So I think that's going to be the big bottleneck, and we're just going to have to work to improve that as best we can.
Awesome. Last question comes from Yellow Stag. Coming from a WoW and Diablo background, how do you think Star Citizen will hold up down the road? Do we seem to have a similar foundation on the development side of things? Will there be any more studios? If so, what will they be? I don't think you can answer the last two, but...
So, World of Warcraft and Diablo 3 are both different beasts from one another, and we are a completely different beast from that. The way that Star Citizen is going is a cloud-based solution, complete infrastructure. Price tag becomes the problem, right? In that situation is, as you scale up more and more services that you have to pay for, then it just gets expensive. But it's, from a technical standpoint, it's totally theoretically possible that, if we needed to create 7,000 solar systems, we have the ability to do that. And even if we had millions of players online, as long as there aren't a million players in one place, then all of that is being handled by disparate services and different VMs and a database architecture that has a caching layer that is completely not IO dependent and is allowing data to be read and multiplied across multiple different regions, so that we sort of have this ability to have a unified game world. I think a lot of games in the last 10 years have come up with they've hit against this problem where players in Europe play in Europe, players in America play in America, and there's been some work to improve upon that, and I think that our game's going to be that next iteration of a truly seamless game where there are no national or regional boundaries. The problem really just becomes player congregation habits. Now, I mean, we had when I worked at Blizzard, we had those problems in WoW all the time. Was how do you design a game to sort of keep players from constantly congregating in one tiny area? And so, you know, I see the future is very bright. We've got a lot of technical challenges ahead of us. I think we're building a very good foundation. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot more investigation, you know, a lot more technical research, trial and error. We have our PTU servers, so you know we're definitely going to be utilizing those to try out solutions, and if they don't work, we'll try something else before we put it to live. So you know that's going to help us out a lot.
That's nice. See, what I would do in World of Warcraft, I would just go into first person and look at the ground when I went into Stormwind. That way there was no slowdown. All right, man, well, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure.
Back to you guys.
Thanks, James. It's great to have such a technical discussion about how our game works. Hopefully you understood that better than I did.
Big things are coming. We aim to roll out Star Citizen 1.1 to the live server in the next few days.
I know I said this last week, but it's even more true this week. It could be as soon as tonight.
Tomorrow we'll have all flyable ships for testing in a very special free fly week.
That's as part of our big presentation at South by Southwest. In fact, we've got a free party on Sunday. If you are in Austin, come on by and check out some of the starts of the social module with us.
And we have replaced our banner as it got stolen at the PAX East party.
I heard about that. If you have our banner,
yes,
return it, please.
Yes, please return our banner.
We're a crowdfunded game. We can't afford unlimited banners.
Exactly. So we will have a new banner in Austin. Subscriber Monthly Flair releases tomorrow.
And we've also got an Inside CIG with our composer, Pedro Camacho.
And we will leave you with an art sneak peek.
Here it is.
Thanks for watching, and to all of our subscribers for making this possible. We will see you next week on Around the Verse. Thanks, ladies. I also have Chelsea moving over to Denver for a month.
We're gonna miss Chelsea while she's Coloradian.
Felt like I was in a weird improv class. Okay.